Let's get it live. Let's go live.
We going, K-Back.
We going live, so we're gonna kick
Going
this
live,
thing off.
all right.
We're gonna kick this thing off today.
Sports Shop drop in. You know how we do it each and every Tuesday night. We're so happy to have you guys join us tonight. And every Tuesday we give you a different spin on what we're doing. We're so excited to have some icons, and I mean that seriously in the world of music and entertainment. And I tell you, we kind of outdid ourselves this time through a great partnership and friendship with a music industry executive, my main man Charles Whitfield is on with us. Charles, welcome, man. How you doing?
Thank you, Earl, man. Great to be here. Appreciate you having me. And you asked me, could I bring a couple of friends to the party? And I did so.
Yeah, I think you kind of overdid it, but we really appreciate it, man.
Hey, you had Fred on last week, so that's a tough act to follow. So,
he came up big swinging though.
Yeah, I need to bring some help with me.
But you brought enough, and your help. I'm talking about world-renowned saxophonist. I've seen him play many times at Hoop T. I've seen him do a lot of the national anthems. I follow his music, his career, man. We're so happy to have the one and only Mike Phillips on. What's up, Mike? How you doing, brother?
Man, everything is love, man.
All right.
All right.
That's what I'm talking about. And last but not least, I mean, I got to thank him personally for helping me get through some nights, man. I really appreciate the music that he brought to
the Pause.
I'm talking about when I had to get
clarify that before we
try to put some words together, get my rap on. We just so happy to have. I'm talking about an R&B legend in every sense of the word, the one and only Will Downing. Will, how you doing, man? How you going, brother? Okay.
Real froze on. You put too much pressure on it. You put too much pressure on it.
That's a real nice smile you got there, Will.
That's crazy. Yo,
I think he's back here, man. Hey, Will, did you hear that great introduction I gave you? Did you hear that great introduction I gave you? I gave you a great intro. Then you froze on us, just like then.
It's he froze again.
Look at Mike. See, Mike. Yeah, Mike having too much fun with that one, man.
Well, anyway, we welcome you guys, and hey, let's just jump right into it. Of course, myself, K-Mac, and of course, Chucky Brown, we still rocking as we always do. We got Jasmine that's going to chime in as well. So, hey, guys, we want to get you guys just overall reaction, and I know you guys are very close to this. CC is very close to it. The Last Dance, in terms of the documentary, your comments on how it was done and just different things about The Last Dance. CC, what do you think about that?
I mean, I thought it was very well done. And one, Earl, having a personal relationship with MJ, I met him when I was 15 down at Campbell's basketball school where I was a camper, and he came in to play. And meeting him through Fred, just actually seeing the documentary and how it played out, I was really glad that MJ gave everybody a personal look into his life and into what drove him. And the beautiful thing is, I'll let Mike talk about it himself, but, not only has Michael been a mentor, a big brother to me, but also been in business with him. For those that don't know, he was the majority investor in Hidden Beach Records, which fortunately I helped start with a brother named Steve McKeever. And actually, Mike was one of the first 3 artists signed on Hidden Beach. And in addition, Mike was the first non-athlete signed to Jordan Brand. So,
wow.
Yeah. So a lot of people may or may not know that. And, Mike can tell the story better than myself, but he also helped design the Jordan Brand 17 shoe, where we put some music notes on the shoe, which Mike inscribed on the shoe, the greatest to ever play, in honor of MJ. So not only has he been, a big brother, mentor to myself, but also, really embraced Mike as the first non-athlete to sign to Jordan Brand, just like all the other endorsers, whether it was Derek Jeter, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. Mike has been a long-time Jordan Brand endorser for over 15 plus years. And so it's it's been great to see how the documentary played out. And as I said, it was great that MJ really let people in that close to see the real him. And I've been blessed, being Fred's younger brother to be around it firsthand. And I mean, It was almost surreal just to see it play back. But it's been a big blessing to see it. And as Fred said when he talked last week, I'd never take the relationship with Michael for granted. And it's something that's special. Earl, being close to Phil and your Carolina days, Chucky knows being an NC State guy. MJ's as real as it is. And what you saw in that documentary was really him. So it's just been a blessing, and it was great for me to see it. Wow.
What about you, Mike?
Well, you know what? I think the Last Dance, it was really well. It was put together because people, you hear folklore and you see the same old Patrick Ewing getting dunked on, but and I'm a Knicks fan, so that's hard. I'm probably talking from my scars right now. Actually.
Oh God, you definitely are.
It runs deep, but it's really crazy because then the side stories are what really important. The little nuances that allow you to understand what separates MJ from the rest of them, and how he interacted with everybody else. How you knew how to handle Dennis Rodman, and the greatness in Dennis too. How we think that rebounding was just something you did off of effort. When he sat down and explained it, it was a art to it. He was like, "Yo, if I Steve Kerr this way, if he hits long, I know it's going to bounce off this. I know it's going to bounce that way." So I love the documentary because it really got into the nuances, because we've been seeing Michael Jordan highlights for years without stories that contained nuance. So it was killing. I enjoyed it.
Wow. Will, what about you? You're a big basketball fan. I know you've been following this.
Absolutely, man.
Okay. Every time Will say something, this freezes up. Wow.
Mike, you need to stop. Mike, you need to stop. Mike, need to stop. But it's
Mike,
go ahead.
You're number one, brother. You're number one.
There we go. We'll leave Will like that. Maybe he'll stay on with us.
Will got his old pause button.
I think he's playing with us. He must have his own pause, but because you notice when he pauses, he always has this big grin on his face every time he pauses.
But Will pretty. He, every time he gets paused, this is a smile, and that's never one of the middle ugly faces.
We got the perfect pause every time. I see what's up.
I'm back in.
You back?
Go ahead.
In.
You back?
All right. One of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. It gives you some insight as to what really went on behind closed doors. Jerry Krause, Reinsdorf, the backdoor deals. It's funny, man. Being an entertainer, you always want to acquire fame, and you always want, all the things that come along with it. But after seeing this, I wouldn't want to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be Michael. I wouldn't want to be Michael Jackson. I wouldn't be Brown.
Tyson Jackson.
I want to be Freddie Jackson.
He said Freddie Jackson. Did he say Freddie Jackson? Go ahead, came back.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be Freddie Jackson. I would be any of them.
I thought it was a great story.
Right.
It's people look at it in different ways. He's like the guy that you love to hate. It's like there's certain aspects of his life you sort of looked at and kind of, this dude was a jerk. And then you watch a little bit more and you go, oh, damn, I get it. He was driven, obviously. So yeah, man, I thought it was just very well done.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that leads me to the question I wanted to ask, all of you guys is, just looking at that, because one of the common themes through all of this was just how driven Michael was and how hard he worked and how he wanted to outwork everybody. I know it's kind of cliche. We all think about it all the time. Oh, yeah, Michael Jordan. But just how hard he drove all of his teammates and everybody to be good. Did you guys, know any of that, or kind of get, know how deep that was before the documentary? I'll go with you, Charles. We'll go first with Charles.
Yeah, I definitely did. And I mean, he's always been like that. He's always been a driven person who demands excellence. And literally, when we started Hidden Beach, for example, he came in as the majority investor, but he actually did not want anyone to know he was an investor in the label. And what his whole mission was, hey, at the end of the day, if the music doesn't speak for itself, it doesn't matter. And so from it, we actually, Jill Scott was the first artist that we signed to the label. We signed Jill Scott, Brenda Russell, and Mike Phillips. Those were the initial three. And so when Jill's first project came out, one, he wanted it to always be about the artist and how, because he was like, if I'm involved, it doesn't matter if the music isn't any good. And so trusting myself and my boss, Steve McKeever, to go out and pick talent for the roster, it was the same way he acted on the basketball court. He always demanded excellence. We would sit in meetings, with him, and he said, hey, I trust you guys, go do your thing. And at the end, as you see, he was very driven, but when he found somebody he trusted, the first three-peat, it was a guy like John Paxson, who he trusted to hit clutch shots. The second three-peat, it was a guy like Steve Kerr, who he trusted, who hit a big shot. It was always a constant, whether it was a guy like Scottie Pippen, who was his Robin to him being Batman. And so at the end, but, whether it was Charles Oakley initially, whether it was Horace Grant, whether it was guys like Luke Longley or Tony Kukoc, he always demanded excellence. But as he said, he never asked them to do anything that he didn't do. You saw how hard he worked when he got beat up a couple times in those playoffs with Detroit. He immediately got Tim Grover and started working out. And with the other guys, called it the Breakfast Club, where every morning they were working out because he wanted to get stronger. And so one, he never asked the guys to do anything that he personally didn't do himself. And as Chucky, who played in the NBA, I know he can relate to it, is, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And at the end, MJ never demanded anything from anybody else that he didn't demand of himself. Wow.
Chucky, you can chime in if we ever get a chance there. It's unbelievable when you think about that and his work ethic. You guys are entertainers, and this goes out to definitely Will and Mike.
Oh my goodness!
How do you relate?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We hear you, Chucky. Yes.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah. How do we relate? How do you relate to just work ethic of guys like Chucky, who played in the NBA for a long time, and all the NBA guys? Can you identify some similarities in preparation and performing? This question goes out to both of you guys, either you, Michael, or either Will.
I think when I played baseball in high school, coach gave me some sound advice. He said, practice doesn't make perfect. He says perfect practice makes perfect, because what you put into repetition will come to fruition when it's time for your technique. And I took that advice as far as baseball and applied it to music. So, it's not just about playing it. Okay, you played in one key, but there are 11 more keys. Can you play it in all 12 keys? Can you challenge? Play it in different speeds? Can you play it in different octaves? So I think and a lot of things now where these kids are wired for success quickly. You post something 30 seconds on the gram and all of a sudden, you want to be famous. And when you watch this documentary, what goes over these kids' heads nowadays that really needs to get back and instilled is that we have to be infatuated with the process of being great. That's all what sports is, like the journey. And when you're addicted to the process of being great, even through the potential failures, which aren't failures, as MJ said, the L's that you take are not losses, but lessons.
Right.
So, so what you get from sports is the same correlation. It's like, hey, I always tell people, never use your God-given gift as a crutch for being unprepared. So I don't care if you can jump 36 inches and dunk, but are you prepared? Can you call out a screen? Can you do the little things that will allow you to understand that being prepared is just as important as your gift? And sports allows you to put those things into fruition. And when you watch this documentary, now you can add in the fact that you have to have a mindset and to be prepared for the road of understanding that you have to be addicted to the process of being great.
Interesting. Will.
Now that face right there, I'm gonna give that face. We gonna give that face like a 4.
Okay, now you're moving, Will.
Hey,
Go
man,
ahead.
the great are great for a reason, and I certainly can appreciate the fact that Mike was so driven to push people to want to be the best that they could be, and he pushed himself to be the best that they can be, or he could be. But at the same time, it's supposed to be fun. You know, there should be some enjoyment out of it as well. And how it correlates to music, you know what, it's not fun being on stage working with folks that may respect you, but they may not necessarily like you. So I've always tried to like have a marriage of the two. I've always been driven like that, but not to that extent. I've always wanted to be the best at what I could be, but it gets to a point where, you know, there was something that kind of made me want to be in the music business. And I try to keep sight of that. And some things are God-given. So you have to bridge the two. You know, there's nothing wrong with being driven, but you got to have a good time while you're doing it. Wow. You know, they say if you want to take a job, you should take a job that even if they didn't pay you, you would want to do it. Yep. So that's kind of my take on it. That's the correlation between, for me, music, entertainment, and sports. You know,
wow.
Same.
I'm gonna let Jasmine K-Man jump here, but I got one. Will, why do you sound like you talk, man? You seem just like how you talk. What's up with that, man?
I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad. Either I said really.
It's very good. No, it's very good. It's very good. Go ahead, Jasmine.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing, Jasmine? There we go.
Hey guys, yeah, it's kind of piggybacking off of that conversation. In the middle of that documentary, we saw MJ get extremely emotional when he was asked, how he, you know, was with his team at the expense of being considered a nice person. So in your respective field, how do you manage being nice and still maintaining that level of enjoyment, but pushing everyone around you to be better?
Well, for someone like me, hey, Liffy, you want to keep your job.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
You want to keep your job, you get better Wi-Fi. That's what you do.
You may have too many apps running in the background. Or, you know, I don't know what he's doing.
Go ahead, Mike.
You know who's really like similar now that I'm really thinking about it? Prince and Michael Jordan were similar animals. I'm telling you. So I'll give you a couple examples. So we'll do a tour, and Prince would bring us all up to the room, and he'll go over the whole show. He'll be like, Mike, you missed the spotlight right there, and you missed the parts. Hey, sound man, I didn't have reverb. What happened to guitar tech? Hey, you didn't pull out my guitar in time. Background, you're supposed to be doing choreography. He would have a list of things that we needed to work on that when we performed the next show, we would nail it. So he was the work ethic, and he was pretty intense. Prince was intense. So when I watched The Last Dance, and when you're in those Prince rehearsals, and if I'm not playing my parts correctly, he will take the horn off of my neck and start playing it better than me.
Wow.
Man, it's interesting you say that. Marcus Anderson, who's a friend of the show, he comes on quite often, and he would tell stories about how Prince would do stuff and how, you know, he could tell if somebody wasn't playing something correctly, and they would just come up missing the next day, and there'd be a new person replacing them the next day, you know, coming out of the hotel room.
Yo, real talk. So one time, the bass and drummer, Prince wasn't feeling them. So Prince was like, Michael, fly in Michael Bland and have him just watch the drummer at rehearsal. I was like, what? You want the old drummer to sit at rehearsal and look at the new one? I was like, yo, man, you wild, man. And, Prince look at you up and he's like, fly him in. Like, man, yo, I mean, there's better ways to get something out of the intimidate people. Man. Poor drummer.
Facts.
Go ahead, Will. See, can we get you to chime in again on that topic?
Amen. Well, you know what? I understand it. I hear you, but they're all the same people. Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, Luther Vandross.
Yep.
Wow.
But take this into account. Now, this and I ain't trying to sound morbid or anything like that, but each one of those people, with the exception of Michael Jordan, unfortunately passed away by themselves.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Wow.
Michael Jackson in a sleep chamber, no one around. Prince in an elevator, no one around. No friends, no nobody.
Wow.
Whitney Houston in a tub in water by herself, nobody around.
Wow.
So there's a price that comes along with being this, this mega superstar. You know what I mean? So just pointing out the facts.
Yep. Wow. Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because like at the end of the day, when you look at some of the artists, especially Prince, you're so driven that now, when you're fascinated that much to that extreme, what happens is that now if you spend 90% doing that, now you got 10% to deal with your family, social issues, just the normal things that happen. And when you look at when the balance is off, then you can't really function cohesively with making sure your art is a part of you without you being the actual art.
Wow.
Yep.
That's deep. Mac, Jazz. Okay, I go. I want you, CC, I want you to chime in on this. The industry, industry is really different. Jazz and K-Back, particularly Jazz, we give her a hard time about the younger generation in terms of what's going on with music. And I want you guys to just chime in on just your reaction to the new generation and the music they're putting out in all genres. I'm talking about jazz, R&B, rap, whatever. I'm curious to see where you guys are regarding those genres. CC, you can go first.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. And one, in my career now, what I do in Charlotte, working on radio with Beasley Media Group.
Right.
It's funny how we've developed a really good relationship with probably the hottest hip hop guy out right now from Charlotte, who's the Baby.
Okay.
And his whole team, Arnold Taylor, who started his label, my PD Incognito, and one of my jocks, No Limit Larry, developed a great relationship with the Baby. So we did a show with him, which ended up going off good. But the crazy thing is, just like all artists, he loves sports. So he loved the Hornets. If you see any of his videos, he's always wearing Hornets gear, representing Charlotte. He's also always wearing Jordans. So he wanted to come to a game, and I had never met him at all. My whole crew knew him, but I never met him. So didn't have any, perceptions about him. But when he came to the game, he came just like me and Mike and Will would go to a Hornets game. It was him and his son. No bodyguard, no 3 or 4 guys with him, no boys. It was him and his son. And that night, interacting with him, he was just as nice and pleasant of a cat. And he's at the top of the game right now. And so obviously the artists are somewhat different because the whole game is different. Everything is consumed on your phone or online. As I was telling Will last night, my favorite record that Will did came out in 1991, A Dream Fulfilled. It was my senior year at Central. I was working at a CD store.
I feel old again.
Hey, just telling you what it is. But from every song on that CD, you could tell the passion that Will put into it. And it wasn't about 1 or 2 songs that could go up on iTunes that people could stream. It was a whole album. And then not only did you get a whole album, when you saw him live, you got a whole concert. And so from Anita Baker to Will to Maze with Frankie Beverly to, all these people. And so now it's just a different game because it's not about a whole record. It's about singles. And so, Mike can tell you from his first record that, we did with Wayman Tisdale in 2003 called You Wish Mike Phillips. It was about a full record. And Mike can tell you, it took us probably, Mike, 4 years to make that record with Wayman. Yeah, but by the time you got it, you got a full record. And so at the end, Jill's first record, Jill's second record, it wasn't about singles. It was about full projects. And to me, that's the biggest difference now is everything is consumed on iTunes or on Spotify or online. It's not about full projects like what happened when Will was first coming out, even when Mike was first coming out. And that's to me the biggest difference. And you get a little bit, but not as much. When you said, Earl, when you got Will, you getting a whole record. And then you're going to get a full concert with him, with somebody else. And same with Mike. With every record we made with Mike, we put time into it, and we made sure it wasn't projects on there that you could skip.
Wow.
I mean, obviously with Will and Mike being artists, they can chime in, and Mike is one who gives back to a lot of artists, young sax players that he's mentored and whatnot. Just as, he got mentored with Prince and with Stevie. He was mentored by two of the best. And so part of what we always do is talk about pay it forward and truly try and lift up some of these young artists and help show them the way.
Yes.
Exactly.
Do you think that in some ways takes away from the art, or does it force the artists to be more creative with how they put out their art, given that we're in this singles kind of era of music?
Well, you know what? You can make a choice to compromise, but one thing that shouldn't be compromised is the level of your musicality and the product that comes out because of that. The pivot and the compromise comes with the nuances of the new paradigm that the business is in. So, you might have to be online a little bit more. You might have to rock a IG or get on live a little bit more. The pivot, and even especially in this time, the pivot for you having a 4K camera or GoPro hooked up in your room with your studio is very real right now. So how do we cross-pollinate the ability to make sure that our art is so on point that we're not compromising, but still pivoting to the new era of how the music gets out there and how you throw yourself into the conversation because of your ability to understand that the pivot is very real. So it's a balance, but that balance should never include you compromising who you are as a brand and a musician or a singer to be a part of the conversation.
I think that brings up a really good segue to the Instagram battles that we're kind of seeing now on live. And so like the biggest or the best one for me that I saw was the Jill Scott Erykah Badu one. Those are legendary artists who have just great, albums and just music and just personalities. And we got to see that in a new way. We've never seen them, in an Instagram live before. And, obviously because of the pandemic, that's kind of where we're at this point. But how do you see in the future, like that moving forward, now that the pandemic has forced everyone to, stream live and do things like this? Forward, that paradigm shift, that way that we get music, how do you foresee that happening or moving forward once the pandemic is over?
Well, I'll take this one. I mean, for me, I'll go back to the original question, and then I'll also address yours, Jasmine. I mean, for me, I've become like my father. Music is generational. I remember being in the car with my dad when I first heard "Change," "The Glow of Love."
Oh,
and
wow.
It was Luther singing. And I'm in the car. I said, Dad, my dad turned the radio up. I said, man, this guy, he can sing. You listen to this guy sing? He was like, he ain't no David Ruffin. And I'm looking at my dad, and I'm like, man, what are you talking about? So now, fast forward, I have children. My kids come to me and they go, hey, you got to hear this young lady sing. And I sound just like my dad. I'm like, he ain't no Luther Vandross. So it's just a sign of the times. I mean, listen, the artists that are out there today, they're doing their art the way they like to do it. It's being presented in a way that you guys can identify with. Your IG, your TikTok, your this, your that.
Yeah.
So the younger generation, they're used to this whole computer thing and being ecstatic about the versus thing, and it's a great platform. What's interesting is I think a lot of the younger artists are starting to see now that you have to have catalog to do it.
Yep.
You know, most of these young artists now they got one or two singles. Did I freeze again?
No, you're good. No, you're good.
Okay. Most of these artists have one or two singles, so it's kind of like, what kind of battle you gonna have? So
it's gonna be a short battle.
No, I tell you what, battle.
And I gotta have a dancer in the background. You know.
So the battle that needs to happen is who can run home quicker to write a good song.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
No, I'm just saying. If you ain't got no catalog, you better run home as quick as you can. Write your song.
See, Mike, you started trouble now. You started to call people out.
100, man.
But Jasmine, I was gonna say, but just one last point. But
yes.
Jasmine, like when me and Mike, we started our careers, and also Charles, as an executive, it was almost like when you were in the music business as an artist, it was almost like you were in a fraternity or a sorority. It was a special sort of thing. Yep. You had to earn the right to be in. There weren't but so many jobs and so many contracts to be had. So when you were part of that special limited amount of folks that got in as an artist, it was it. Now, hey, the young lady who lives across the street from me got damn near as many records out as I do. She puts out a record every week. So it's kind of tough to become, to even become an artist these days. It's rough. It's rough out here. And though it is an opportunity for everyone who wants to be in the industry to do it, it blocks the way of real important music. Yeah. There are people out there who have really got something to say, and you don't get to hear it because someone put out a bunch more tweets than you did, or sent out a whole bunch more, Instagram messages, or it was on Facebook, and so it's six in one hand, half dozen in the other. It's a tough industry.
Yeah.
And just to chime in a little bit on that, Jasmine, one, Jill Scott was actually the first artist that I worked on. First project that I A&R, so it was great for me. But Jill and Erica, we put them, they did a tour together several years back called a Sugar Water Tour. And it was actually Floetry open, then it was Queen Latifah, and then Jill and Erica would alternate cities who would close. And that was such an amazing tour, and it was amazing. I talked to Jill the other day just on, it reminisced me back to Sugar Water, but just on, literally they were having a conversation and playing hits. And to what Will was saying, when you got a catalog, I mean, they sat there for 2 hours, and it's still bangers that Jill didn't even play.
They didn't even
play. She didn't
3 more hours of music.
Yeah, she didn't play Golden, which was a hit single. Yeah. She didn't play Crown Royal. It was bangers that she did not even play. And Erica was the same way. And so at the end, that was real catalog. And it wasn't no dancers. It was them having a conversation. When you got Michelle Obama chiming in. Yeah. You got Alicia Keys. When you got all these other people chiming in to look at it, it shows to what Will and Mike said when we first started. Jill's first record came out in 2000. Mike was on her live record, also on Rap One. It was real talent. And to Will's point, it was about full product. We signed a group named Kindred the Family Soul.
Oh,
yes. And a wife group that had Far Away Stars.
Wonderful group.
And it was full albums. And then when you went to see them live, you saw the live experience as well. Like, I love Mike. Mike's my brother, but he is the baddest live saxophone player around. Not saying it because he's my boy.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I've seen him smash people in their face over and over 20 years, and it never gets old because he's always changing up the show. He's never settling with just the craft. Will is the same way. Like, to Earl, to your point, my favorite Will song is I Try. And
I try to do.
I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah, Will's face.
Will, my apologies, brother.
I was gonna say, not while the man is sitting there.
I can't take a better time, baby.
The joy of what I just heard. The joy of what I just heard made me feel better about my career.
My man.
I gotta say, Will, man, he is if you've, I know we've been to many Will Downing concerts, just to watch him work a crowd, to have that relationship with the crowd. You see, like in this new time, everybody wants to get on by being in front of the camera, singing, and then all of a sudden, or you can go the route of, the kind of like the high school singing competitions, these television shows. But what happens is that you don't know how to perform. You've just been thrown out there, or you've been in front of a camera, performing and getting people to like what you did. But let me tell you my schedule in New York. Monday, I performed at a place called Groove 101. Tuesday was Nell's.
Okay, Nell's.
AY. Thursdays was Sylvia's. Friday, I had wedding bands. And then Sunday was Wilson's. I did that for 3.5 years straight.
Oh, wow.
So what happens is that you get to understand how to perform. You get your reps. It's kind of like playing ball. It's like playing AAU. You got to get your reps. And
you got to get your reps. Yep.
Out. And just watching Will, that he comes from an aspect of understanding and going through the process of being seasoned. So I come after him understanding that same process. So now when you look at the new generation, it's like, let me get put on. And I don't know how it's going to happen if my YouTube starts popping and I get a million followers, and then I get on the stage and I'm like, what's going to happen now? So those reps are truly important to combine with the catalog that you have, the talent that you have, and the ability to perform that. Those three things have to happen. It's just like golf. You're not just going to be driving the ball and you can't putt.
Right.
There are phases of the game that always have to kind of like be intact and have some sort of high level. So when you get on stage, it is the completion of everything that you've done, from writing the song to being able to perform it, to being able to perform it live. And Will has, perfected, and he has that trifecta. And you look at Gerald Albright, Kirk Whalum, these great artists that are out here, they follow that format. So I love the new school way of things, and I like to use them, but man, like I'm sticking with the old way of making sure that you know how to perform.
Man, you know what? I have to ask you guys this question. I just got to know. So, we talk about it all the time when we interview people. We say, in your profession or whatever you do, baseball, football, entertainer, performer. When you first came across the one person that you said that you had to take a step back and said, now that person is out of this world good at whatever it is. When you talk about music, performers, singers, artists, whatever, talk about the first time you probably came across a person or an artist that you just said that is amazing talent, and I can't believe that I got an opportunity to sit in and see this.
I mean, for me, someone like Luther Vandross. I mean, the first time that I met him, I was like, man, this dude's voice is amazing. I went to go see him in concert. I was like, damn, he's incredible. So let me see this again. And I kept waiting. I was like, is this Negro going to make a mistake? It went from being entertaining to like, damn, is he that much better than everybody?
Yeah.
It was like Luther was like that for me. Whitney was like that for me. And it's something that you can't even explain. It's just like they were just better. Yeah. I mean, listening to Luther, I was like, dude, he's just better than I am. That's just it. And can I aspire to, to reach those heights? Absolutely. Right. But am I going to be like that? Nah, that dude, I was in awe. And Anita Baker as well.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Just awe. Like they don't make mistakes in my eyes. Oh, they did make mistakes.
What about you, Mike?
Man, when you look at, there's a combination between the ability to deliver what you do and to package it in a form of a show. Man, like every time I see Uncle Charlie, it's like,
wow.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it's to the point where, if you're playing, you got to be playing with him to get the maximum benefit of his existence. because if you're playing before him or after him, you might as well
Yeah, I saw
yeah. You better be with him. So it's Prince too. I remember one day Morris Day came out on all cylinders and was whooping our behind. And Prince said, everybody, as soon as he finished, get to the stage. So Morris Day, Rome was doing splits, and we kept on looking out the curtain. We kept on going like this. We was like, the crowd was up on their feet. So in Prince fashion, he says, as soon as he finished, I'm sending you a new set list. So if Morris Day finishes,
I love the voice.
And all of a sudden, we get on stage and Prince comes out of the curtain and he started with Purple Rain.
Wow.
I'm like, this dude can't let nobody live. Like, it's the first time ever I've seen him start with Purple Rain and he, whatever Morris thought he did, was over.
Hey, Mike, can I piggyback something you said? You said Uncle Charlie, right? Yeah. All right, quick, very, very, very quick story. I opened up for Uncle Charlie, right? So after I performed, I went down to the little green room, the catering area. And I see someone from the radio station. They were like, yo, man, so, Will, damn, man, what you doing here? When'd you get in town? I was like, I opened up for... like, yo, on the right, yeah. Like, you kicked my ass that bad? Really?
So you're supposed to get your... Now, the man is bad when you get your butt kicked and you went before him.
Yeah, I know.
The butt kick is supposed to be after. But, like, yeah, man, I tell Uncle Charlie right now, if I opened up for you, I'm just going home. Like, gas, man. I don't even want to see my own debacle.
Hey, man, my thing at the end of the night was, and it's what I always say when someone says, hey, man, how was the show? I'm like, if this check don't bounce and ain't nobody boo, as far as I'm concerned,
I know that's right. Hey, Chucky, you just got back with us. I know you want to chime in and ask you guys some questions, man.
Yeah, I had a question for both of them. Like, I know with the way, like I compared, like, because they're entertainers to like basketball too. Like the way, like we see the new basketball players, how they want it now. Do you see these new artists as like some of them like not paying their dues like you had to? Do you see that?
Wow.
Yeah, but to them the dues are different.
Right.
So it's kind of like the foundation that was laid for me, like when I was doing just gigs, I used to watch Ray True play. Just the old school musicians who had a old school mindset. So now the baton that they have, that they handed to me.
Okay.
The question is, what are the things that are in that baton?
Okay.
So we look at it and it's like understanding rites of passage, understanding that you have to understand the root of your genre. So the new school is kind of like, okay, so they see some leaves on the tree and that's cool, but the root of it is Louis Armstrong, Train, Coltrane, Parker for me. And the last time, if you look at a hurricane, when the storm comes, the first thing to go are the leaves. The root of the tree always stays. So like, I just want to encourage the younger musicians and the younger artists to understand that they have to understand the root of the genre. So
know the history.
I think, you try to bypass it a little bit, but guess what? You're going to get back to the root, because if I'm not well schooled in Louis, Charlie Parker, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins, and the great women of jazz, Ella Fitzgerald, I'm going to be eventually missing something. So to fulfill my duty culturally of understanding where I come from and being able to play what I understand, it's better for me to not take any shortcuts. And I wish that the younger generation would understand that. I know Will can elaborate even more.
Right.
Well, you know what? The one thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to disregard an artist, their journey. Because when I came out, it felt like people were looking at me kind of saying, where'd this dude come? He's this new guy. But prior to me becoming a solo artist, I had put in years and years and years of work that obviously knew about. And I think that it's the same thing with this new generation. I mean, they're out there working, they're doing something, because when I hear artists like her, HER, there's no way that she came out of nowhere. So this young lady putting in some work somewhere, because she can just straight up sing and play. So they're doing their thing in their own way, you know. So I don't know their backstory, but it's going to be. I'm very anxious to see like where they go and how they sustain, because with the world being the way it is now, everything is very momentary. Like, hey, you know,
now,
my story is someone who loves someone for a minute, and then the next minute it's kind of like, you know, she had on the wrong outfit. You know, I ain't like what she was
wearing. Yeah.
You know,
her sound wasn't working on verses.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting to see where I'm very interested to see where these young artists go that are up and coming. I mean, there's a lot of artists out there doing their thing. You know, I just wish, you know, there were fewer of them out there so we could focus on, you know, the key ones.
Wow. Yeah, you guys also touched on something too that I was thinking about, like the competitiveness of when you perform. Like you was like you already touched on how you know someone like what Prince did to Morris Day. You know, I wanted to know like more about that competition, and is it like competitive? Like, do you hear a song and say, "Wow," you know what I'm saying? I gotta do something to top that, or I gotta be better than that. Do you guys feel like that sometimes?
It's a little different, because I remember when I opened for Jill Scott.
Okay.
I used to drill the band. We had these rehearsals, and then the show moved up a notch. And then Jill was like, yo, they killing. So guess what? She started rehearsing. I started rehearsing again. And you know what? It was positive, because the show went from one place to another, because we both was encouraged and fueled by each other, wanting to acquire a level of greatness. So when competition festers in that type of positive environment, like, yo, you killed that, man, so I'm gonna come out and try to kill it too. Oh man, you killed it. So we both move up together. So it's not like the horror stories Prince told me when he was killing Rick James, and Rick James used to push up his stage every night where he only had like 3 feet. I think, man, half of these conversations with Prince, man, I think Rick James ruined him, man, because he used to smash Rick, and Rick in return used to cut his time and push him all the way up to the stage. So Prince was finished, he was just like, man, like this dude. So as long as you respect the other person and encourage them to be better, and let's get together, I think that's when the competition can serve a purpose of each being great.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. But hey, man, we do all these festivals under normal circumstances during the summer. And when you do these festivals and there's, 5, 6, 7, 8 acts on there, you don't want to be the act that gets forgotten. You don't want to be it's like, no. Hey, that ain't gonna be me. So hey, we're raising our game. We ain't gonna be the one like, who was the worst one for the day?
Yeah, I bet you we picked that straw. I'm not gonna get that one.
Exactly, man. Yeah. That's funny. And to your point, just real quick, when you said that Rick James used to do Prince like that, I've had a couple of artists, and this is old school stuff. They do that to me. You go out on stage, you're killing one night, and the next night, like the audience can barely hear you. And you find out one artist turned off one amp when I came.
Oh, wow.
They would turn one off when I was on stage, and they would come on. All of a sudden, it was like click, like, oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Dirty game in them streets, yo. You gotta be.
Oh man, we got guys chiming in. People want to ask a couple of questions real quick. I see a couple of them talking about talent being missed and microwave listening society. What are artists? Some people are not getting seen. But here's a question I probably wanted you guys to chime in on, and we'll start with Charles. We'll start with you first. What advice would you tell new aspiring artists that might win a TV talent show, but don't have the leadership to get them in the game? Though can't seem to break into the game, so to speak.
I mean, to me, it's really all about your team. And regardless of, I can give you a great example of a young lady, Vanessa Ferguson, who was on The Voice, and she was on Alicia Keys' team a couple years back and literally almost won. And she's right there in Greensboro. And one of the things I love about Vanessa is she's a great artist, and from The Voice, she's used The Voice to show, even when you don't win, what you need to still do to keep creating and grinding. And she's created a good team around her. And at the end, it's about opportunity and never being afraid to pick up the mic and go perform. That's the one thing that I loved about Mike. When we first started, we would just grind, and we would go, one, he started playing with Wayman Tisdale that's how we initially signed him, because he was playing with Wayman Tisdale. And so, but he would play with Wayman, and then we go try and find other little gigs to play at other little clubs outside of what he was doing with Wayman. And so at the end of the day, he was always about bettering his craft. And what Mike didn't tell you is when he opened for Jill, which they were label mates, every night Jill saw him perform, and eventually she asked him to get up on stage with her to perform a song, which ended up being The Way. So one, through Jill seeing Mike every night, when the tours first started, he was the opening act. But by the end of the tour, Mike was on a song with Jill that ended up making a live record, and through his hard work, so what I tell everybody is make sure your team is solid. And as we all talked about with social media, do your research, because every artist you pretty much want to get to, they're all on social media. And one, you got to do your craft by studying people you like. The one thing, like artists like Jill, who I worked with, she demanded perfection from her band. Mike's played on tour with her. Mike's played in her band. Mike's played with some of the best. When you talk about Stevie and Prince, those are two of the best that's ever done it. And so when I've seen how Mike works with his band when he plays. Man, if you go to Mike's rehearsal, he does not play. He does not play. In rehearsal, it's like people like, I would you say practice. Mike's practices are in a lot of ways harder than the shows. Some of Mike's band members can't wait to get to the show, but they practice so hard. But that's what Mike learned from Prince. That's what Mike learned from Stevie. That's what Mike learned with Wayman. Mike learned with Jill. So at the end, all he's doing is paying it forward. So to me, any young artist, if you win a TV show, guess what? That may get you a deal, that may not get you a deal. But the true craft comes in developing your team and great relationships around you.
Right.
That's right. Absolutely.
What about you, Will? Mike, same question. You guys chime in. I can't remember the question. Can't remember the question was.
No, it's really.
How can young artists make it after
right.
some sort or something like that?
Yeah.
Mike, you want this one?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think, you know what? It's just about understanding that whatever you accomplished is temporary, and you can't get a inflated sense of self-worth, and get back to the grind. Get back to the grind, because all of these things are nothing but stepping stones, So I really feel that, okay, if you think winning the talent show is the Mount Everest of what your accomplishments are, then you need to think a little bit bigger.
Right.
Just understand that you win it, but there's more things to get. So you got to craft out your book. What's your end story, and how are we going to get there, and how can we look at historical facts and people that you look up to that followed the model? And most of them are the people that work really hard, have great relationships, and understand that things are not going to come quickly.
Right. Yeah. And to piggyback what Mike just said, I mean, the key thing that he said was having relationships. And I think that a lot of young artists today, it's It's fortunate and unfortunate at the same time. They're making music on their computers, so it's like they have no interaction with other human beings. So the less interaction you have with other human beings, the less opportunity you have. Because everything that I've pretty much gotten has been because of relationships. Someone might have pulled me along and say, hey, man, I know this singer. I work with this singer. I work with this guy. There's this young lady, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it becomes like that sort of thing. So I try to encourage young artists to go out there and to meet and to greet and to work with other people. And more important than anything else, go out there and learn your craft live. Because when it's all said and done, especially these days, live is the only way you're going to be able to survive these days.
Wow.
So if you can't perform live, what you're doing is that you're cutting into a potential income stream that will make a difference between you making a great living or you trying to figure it out.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Interesting segue to what Will said. You know, we in this pandemic now, CC, and all you guys, what are some of the things that you guys doing creatively to try to stay, trying to stay relevant, trying to make sure people continue to know who you are? Because we're on unprecedented times right now. So what are some of the things that you would suggest people do and some of the things you're doing?
You know, one, that's a great question. And Mike and Will, and it's a couple other brothers, brother named Eugene Brooks, who does radio down in Atlanta, and another brother named Melvin Rohn, who works with Alonzo Mourning down in Miami, but also the Jazz in the Garden show. And the last couple of weeks, you know, the five of us have been doing Zoom calls just to catch in and check in with each other, make sure everybody's family's healthy, but also trying to figure out ways that what can we do as being business professionals to help with the pandemic. And we're working on some ideas, tying in some hospitals and just throwing around, hey, we're going to come out of this making a difference. And through hard times, also it's great opportunity. And you know, everybody can jump on Instagram or Facebook, or you know, a lot of the battles are great. But at the end of the day, to what Will said, is you got to work on your craft. And at the end, no artists right now are performing live. No one is. So guess what? When things ease up, everybody is going to be performing live again. Yes. So the thing is the artists, just like basketball players, which Chuck you can relate to. Yeah. The artists that didn't work on their craft, guess what? You go. That's going to be able to be shown when those live shows start happening again.
That's right.
Artists that ate too many donuts. Real talk. Artists that ate too many donuts during the pandemic. That's gonna be. Hey, hold up, man. Hold up.
That's funny.
Hey,
that's facts, though. That's right. That's right.
And unfortunately, I'm not gonna be on the stage.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm about to like that. Name. Too many donuts. From the pandemic.com. I'm about to secure that joint.
Hey, that'll be a famous hashtag. Trust
me. Donuts during the pandemic.
That was pretty good, CC.
Hey, just keeping it real. And, hey, we laughing now, but when they get back on the road, y'all remember.
You're gonna see. You're gonna see.
I'll let y'all know right now. I'm in good shape. Look.
Hey, man,
right there, we good.
We'll say, I'm good. I'm good.
Y'all not gonna have me out here looking like a puff marshmallow man.
Hey, I feel that. Trust me.
So I've been having like a lot of these things where we're zooming and we're getting into discussion and making sure the brand is still viable in the midst of the pandemic, which is forcing a pivot.
Yep.
So a lot of people ain't pivoting. Like, yo, if I'll just wait till live shows start. No, you got to follow the pivot. So
that's right.
Thursday, I'm doing Cayman Keller with XM Radio. Sunday, you know, in conjunction with this whole pivot mindset, I'm taking over D Nice's page.
Okay.
And I'm doing a live show. So now, as D Nice has gone from spinning records to getting Mike Philly to rock a 2-hour set for Club Quarantine.
Nice.
So now, and then maybe this opens up the door. So I can say, okay, if Club Quarantine was successful in having people come in and play and sing, then I open up the door and sneak Will in, and then he do a Club Quarantine set, and we got like Michelle Obama and Barack and 200,000 other people watching. So we can understand that even through this pandemic, there is an opportunity to, it's not about compromising your gift, is pushing your gift and what you do into the pivot of the way this thing is forcing us to go. So I'm looking forward to it. At first, I was like, man, I'm just staying home. But I was like, you know what? Something in my spirit was like, yo, just follow the pivot. It's all right. You're still who you are. You're just going to show your gift in these different arenas that are being set up because of the wants of people has changed because of the pandemic. So I'm happy to be doing more interviews like this and more live shows virtually, because the pivot is real. And when we come out of it, you will have more fans if you followed the rules of what the game is, which we're not controlling.
Right. Hey man, as for me, I'm doing something I said I wasn't going to do. I was like, I'm working on another record.
Wow, okay, that's awesome.
Hey, man, I thought I was done. I'm like, I got 23 albums. I'm like, I'm done. I'm good.
Wow.
This pandemic came out. I don't call it a pandemic. I call it a pandemic. This pandemic.
Pandemic.
I call it a pandemic. So man, I'm sowing seeds, man. So when this whole thing, when it opens up, whenever it might be for us, we will be the last on the list to open up as far as entertainment is concerned. You know, we are non-essential. We're entertainers that then close down Broadway till September, October. So if they ain't open up no Broadway shows, ain't none of us getting on nobody's stage nowhere. So when we do open up and when people start coming back out, I'm gonna have some new product in my hands.
All right.
Computer.
That's good news.
You got new product now.
What was that?
You better start these shameless plugs.
Hey, let me tell you something. I'm working on a Christmas album now.
Okay.
Oh man, good.
Working on Christmas and summer, you know.
Hey guys. Hey guys, I want to ask you one last question. I know we got to get out of here. Nate, give me the one time you guys could think of when you just left the stage and you said, damn, I killed it tonight. I mean, like you could just tell, you say, you know what, this is probably the best one I laid down, and that you can remember.
Wow. I'm still waiting on that night.
There you go.
Hey, as for me, I'm Randy Watson every night.
Randy Watson.
Randy Watson.
I don't know if D Nice know what he asking you to do.
Yeah.
Well, my last question to all you guys. I mean, seriously, what parting words can you leave with people that's watching, and of course, regarding where we are in this pandemic? There's a lot of people, a lot of anxiety in the world in terms of, we don't know when the end is going to be. Every time you turn on a news channel, you hear some crazy things, in my opinion. So what are some suggestions you guys have? Start with Charles first. Some things that we can do just to try to maintain some level of sanity during this tough time.
You know what? One, I want to appreciate you guys for having us on, and one, I also want to really shout out my brothers Mike and Will, who not only are great musicians, but as you guys are seeing now, they're even better people.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
The one thing I like to say is, we got to take it serious. When me and my daughter, we went out to the store today, we're masks, gloves.
Yep.
And what amazes me is, some of the clerks are not even wearing masks themselves.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
This is real serious, and we don't know how serious it is. My mom is 88, and bless her soul, her independent living community where she lives, she's been blessed that no one in her community has gotten the virus.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But it's been some in Charlotte that as many as 10 people have died. You know what I mean?
Right.
So me and Mike and Will were on a call the other day, and Mike said he knew 10 people himself who passed away.
Wow.
So the crazy thing is, it's great to laugh. So at the end, everything is so unnormal, man. I got an 8-year-old who's in 2nd grade, and she's taking Zoom classes.
Right.
That's so unnormal. So at the end, we never went through this, but the blessing of it is through bad times, good opportunities arise.
Yep.
And
That's
one
right.
thing is, just like when Earl, you hit me on, hey, I need 2 guys. Man, me and Will and Mike were just on the phone. I said, I got
that was funny. That was crazy, man.
Guys. And one, we serious and check up on each other, and we're working on some stuff, but we also make time to laugh on the call. And just like one of my boys who's been on the call, Melvin, which Will, you'll love. He's like, man, Will keeps freezing up. Laugh out loud. Because with everything going on, if you don't take the time to laugh, if you don't take the time to laugh through everything, you're missing out. But at the end of the day, when it's real family and friends, like I love Mike to death. Yeah. Will over the last 10 years became like a big brother. And at the end of the day, man, when you can count on guys, especially in this business, that really got your back. And I'm sure Chucky, who played all those years in the league, I know you got guys that you played with that you can call to this day.
Oh, yeah.
They still got your back. So through good or bad, that's the one thing the pandemic has done to me, is just further reinforce who my brothers are. And these 2 brothers right here are 2 of my brothers that it ain't about selling no records. It's not about opening up a festival, which, hey, I do a festival here in Charlotte, and both of them have played it and killed it. But it's really about the relationships and the camaraderie that through this pandemic, we've been able to bond and become even closer. And we're working on ways where we're going to help hospitals through our talents that we can help save lives. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
That's great, man.
That's really important. And as for me, man, let's take a music that we all love, hip hop. Okay, so how did it start? It was in the park. People didn't have no electricity, so he went up and
found a way.
DJ Jimmy rigged the lights and ran the power down and created his own like power box off of the light. And all of a sudden, it powered the DJ equipment and the speakers for people to make music so they can rap. And this created a genre. Now, when you look at that, there was something out of nothing. They didn't have anything. They didn't even have any power.
Right.
So if you look at the opportunity that comes from just us being still. For me, I'm taking some classes. I'm taking a class from Harvard about Egyptian archaeology. Okay, cool. I got the time. I'm spending more time with my kids. This time I will never get back again.
That's right.
So how we spend it is very crucial, and it's not like, we can buy time. This is it. I mean, this is it. So like looking at the time I get to spend with my kids and the time that I get to hone in my craft, the time I get to practice, the time I get to be still is really important that we understand that there is a benefit on the back end. We just have to find it. Just like those people in Grand Concourse didn't have no power in the dark, and all of a sudden they're partying because they found a way. So we are that resilient people, even in the midst of the pandemic. And that's why I love DJ, because he found a way for us to party when we couldn't even get together. So let's keep on being creative and forward thinking as it pertains to the opportunities that come with us being in this situation.
Oh, awesome. Will.
Hey, man, listen, I want to piggyback what Mike said. I mean, to me, it's a restart. I think that everyone needed a restart. A lot of people, you're a little older, you start thinking that work is everything. And you just like grind. Got to get this paper. Got to, secure my future. Got to do this. And I think that this has given us a restart. I've seen this one other time before in my life. I got sick in 2007.
Right.
And I was hospitalized and basically wheelchair bound for about a year. And during that time, it made me rethink what's really important in life. And I think that I'm seeing it again now. You know, I was all just back on the grind, and I see a lot of people the same way. They think, man, I gotta get back, I gotta work. And with this time down, they've rekindled their relationship with their families. Yeah. You know, Charles and Mike and I, we were on a call yesterday, and Charles was like, hey man, I gotta go. I promised my daughter we was gonna ride bikes. So I'm like, you know, when was the last time you did that?
Right.
You know, so like it makes you realize that there's more to life than trying to make paper.
Right.
So enjoy this time off, because when you do get back to work, I guarantee you within 2 weeks you'll be like, look at this. Damn it, I need a day off.
You'll be consumed with it all over again.
I guarantee you, everyone that's saying, we gotta get back to work, we gotta get 2 weeks, you're gonna be like, damn, I need a vacation.
Yeah. That's gonna happen.
You know, utilize it well, rekindle your relationship with friends and family, and realize that there's more to life than what you do. And live.
Right.
Oh man, Chucky.
Right. That's so right.
Oh, Jasmine, you got anything you want to say before you leave?
No, just thank you. I mean, it was a wealth of knowledge, and from the younger people that you guys are referencing, I just think it's so important to have this conversation. When you go across generations and you hear from both sides, I think you only come out better.
Yeah. Jabs had a few missteps on the show. You know, she had a problem between the spinners and the barcades. She confused Luther Vandross for Stevie Wonder, but we got through all of that.
Let me explain.
Wow.
And what about the Five Temptations, K-Man?
Yeah,
what about
Five
that?
Temptations.
Wow.
Chucky, you got anything you want to say? Is Chucky still on, K-Man?
You know, sorry.
Is Chucky still on?
Yeah.
You got anything you want to leave?
I had a last question. When, you know, when he mentioned hip hop, is there any artist that you two think that you could work with, well, that's in hip hop?
Interesting.
Wow. Hey, for me, I stay in my lane. I know my lane. I stay in my lane. You know.
Thank you for that too, by the way.
Just don't sing anymore. Don't sing.
I want to be your backup, Will. Put me
way back.
Way back.
I stay in my lane. You don't see me out here trying to have a Will Downing starter kit.
Right.
Drinking, you too can be Will.
But okay, just saying that, like, people know fraud when they see it, you know. So like, be who you are, you know. And there's nothing wrong. I love reaching back and working with the young and up and coming artists. But like the hip hop thing, that ain't my thing. I'm like, I do what I do. Okay. That's it.
All right.
Well, for me, son, I'm rocking with Dr. Dre, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why, because he has the amount of people that are so dope as producers around him. Yep. The guy that produced my record, meanwhile he was producing my record, Dr. Dre signed him, and he had to get permission from Dre to finish my album.
Oh wow!
Like, you're a real musician. You play bass, keys, guitar, you sing. What is Dr. Dre doing? He said, you would not believe how this guy demands us to be musical. So yeah, I'm kind of like the cat, you know, even when I did the Hidden Beach Unwrapped joints, mixing it up was fine because that was a part of my story where I came from. I was a guy that was on the corner trying to battle people and beatboxing and doing that. So it was like a part of who I was. So I think sometimes we try to marry the way music is now to somebody's story that does not correlate with that. Will is what he is because he's sophisticated, he's grown, and the music resembles that. And every time I see a live show, man, like people in hip hop would love to have what he has on the stage. So let's do it vice versa too. So like, you know, just because you're in the up and coming genre, don't mean that you can sink your teeth into an audience and have them for hours upon hours. You see, because the music in the newer genres it's so, you get it, and then the music cool, and all of a sudden it's the next record. But when you talk about classic and timeless records in conjunction with a beautiful gift that can deliver live, there's nothing like that in the world. So shout out to Will, because he is the consummate professional of always showing the existence of all of those three phases that are extremely important. Number one, being uber talented. Number two, putting out great product. And number three, delivering live.
Right.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that.
That's unbelievable.
And Mike Philly epitomizes what your question. Mike got a jam out now. He got flavor in your ear. So he's already, he resurrected a joint, whole hip hop joint. See, there you go. So he's already done.
Okay.
There you go.
Mac.
Hey man, Hidden Beach Unwrapped, man. Please don't ever, man. You guys gotta keep doing that, man. I'm telling you, that was phenomenal stuff. That was great music, man, and great. That showed lots and lots and lots of talent. So you guys don't forget, man. That was still good stuff, man.
Yeah, Charles got that look on his face like, ask Steve McKeever. I ain't got nothing to do.
Hey, I'm going to leave that alone. That's a whole nother show.
Man, you don't have a whole can of worms. But hey, guys, and Charles, first to you, thank you so much for allowing us to hang out with you and your friends. Real big time friends, Mike Phillips and of course Will Downing. This has been a pleasure. Chuck and K-Mac and I and Jazz, we do this every Tuesday. And we really appreciate you guys, and a lot of people are chiming in, and just to have a conversation. I think you guys share some really great information, things we can take away. We were truly indebted to you guys coming on. It was an honor, trust me. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us, man. It's nothing but love, y'all.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, ICC.
Hold on.
Hold on, we'll try one more time to see if it works. Let's see if it works.
All right, my man. Appreciate you.
All right, fellas. All right, Will.
Appreciate y'all, fellas.
Yeah, take care. Take care, Charles.
All right, CC.